I have had great fun playing the Genestealer Cult. And I've had great fun playing against the Genestealer Cult, not just in 10th edition, but across the last few editions. I'm going to tell you why you too should play a Genestealer Cult, and if you don't have Genestealer Cult models and really don't want to buy them, why you should play against the Genestealer Cult. The Genestealer army roster is so very different to the majority of other armies. We don't have a lot of tanks available, we don't have skimmers, we're not fast, on paper. We rely very heavily on infantry, and half our stuff is there to die, half our stuff is there to kill things. And which half is which, we don't particularly know. The tactics of it are anathema to what a lot of other armies have. There's not a gun line that's a Genestealer Cult army. Not unless you're going so heavily into the Brood Brothers that you may as well be an Imperial Guard army. We're not zooming around in transport like Dark Eldar and Orcs, and we have a mix of short-range guns and a bit of combat in a way that is sort of like the Battle Sisters? Is that why I like them both? And they came out in 2nd edition before going away. And they're the underdogs. Oh, so much about my life just started to make sense. Oh right, the video. The Genestealer Cult play very differently. You can't really do an Alpha Strike build. You can try with quite a few Genestealers and a Patriarch, and one of the enhancements to have a go, but that kind of relies on you getting the first turn, otherwise you're just kind of far up. No, you have like strikes on the 2nd and 3rd turn. That's really what decides it. You let the enemy shoot you up, you're going down, you're obviously outnumbered and outgunned, and then boom! Strike from reserve! There comes all of the great brothers and sisters come to liberate you. And this isn't exactly a, oh, we need to wait until later in the game, then eventually we'll strike. No, turns 2 and 3 are perfectly fine. Even if you're pushed for time, because the club's going to close, or tournament speed in a lot of models means you might not actually reach turn 5, you're still getting the good, fun turns in. And then it's just a matter of holding out. So having an army that strikes in the middle of the game, rather than putting out consistent firepower and abilities, or doing an Alpha Strike, it's rather different. And because so few people play Genestealer Cult, the enemy just isn't expecting it. They have no idea what's coming. And that has been one of our main advantages in past editions. Before there was a lot of YouTubers and commentary about it in 10th edition, I suppose I myself am guilty of contributing to that. What we really had as a, haha, bet you weren't expecting this, but not in a, oh I've got you, just people are not familiar with Genestealer Cult and how they play. And it's been a very different, fun experience for them. People have been looking forward to something that isn't just, oh okay, it's an Imperial Guard gun line, oh okay, it's a Space Marine gun line, oh okay, it's a Tau gun line. You get the idea. Or it's, oh okay, it's lots of Orcs rushing towards me, or oh okay, it's lots of Tyranids rushing towards me. Deep striking all over the board is rather different. Until recently, now there's also demons doing it. But there's not a lot of demon players either. So for your opponent, it just hits different. And when you are playing the Genestealer Cult, it is really easy to get into character. It doesn't matter what army you're facing against, there's a narrative there. Are we rising up against the oppressors finally? Have we been rumbled by some Space Marines and need to eliminate them so that they don't tell other people that the Genestealer Cult exist? Is it a raiding party of Orcs or Dark Eldar? And so we're just blending in with the local population and resisting them as any good Imperial citizen should. Or Chaos Cult citizen, depending on who controls your world. And if it's the Tyranids attacking, well, finally has come the time, not of Ascension Day, but to survive against the onslaught of the monsters that we thought were gods. That has so much character. And regardless of what army you're facing, it easily and obviously fits into a narrative that isn't just, you're in a new war zone, you're gonna fight whatever enemy is there. You fight the enemy. The character, the narrative, it all is immediately there as soon as you put 2 armies on the table and one of them is Genestealer Cult. A lot of the character comes from the units you take. You can see the different generations. If you really wanted to show a very young cult, you could just take entirely Acolytes and not bother with the Magos and the Neophytes and some of the characters. If you wanted to not have the Patriarch and just do a part of an armed uprising, you could do that. If you want God to be with you on the field, the Patriarch can be there. Then just try not to let him get killed. I'm sure he's fine and just recovered off screen. That's how it always used to work in Crusades, but now, of course, you can actually have units die in Crusade. Oh, but not the Patriarch. Epic Hero means you never lose experience, you never die. There will always be another cult. And if you did horribly get murdered, then you need to try and do, like, your own mental gambit to keep at least one Genestealer alive to keep the cult going. Or really at least any hybrid, and then through generations, the cult will return. The characters are such a fun part of it. There are a lot of characters for Genestealer Cult compared to our regular unit options, but because so many of the characters look so similar to the Aberrants, the Acolytes, and the Neophytes, it's pretty easy to modify the characters without paying out £20, £25, $30, million, a lot of money. A lot of money. Buy a box set of Neophytes, a box set of Acolytes, or just the starter set, and convert as many of those models as you can into other characters. The kits have so many weapons on them that even when we are rather limited for what we can include, you've got autoguns, you've got shotguns. That's a unit difference. You can mix and match. They're the same profile now. It's all a very nice aesthetic choice. You could make a unit that's entirely 4th generation. You could make a unit that's entirely 2nd generation, painted up with demolition charges. That particular narrative choice has become popular recently in 10th edition. And the most fun thing when you're playing games of Warhammer 40,000 is that you are in the driving seat as the Genestealer Cult. You decide when your troops are going to appear, you decide where, you decide which flank is going to be pressured. You feel very in control of the game, and you're not just reacting to what your opponent's doing. That can just be so boring. So where's the fun in playing against Genestealer Cult? Especially with them doing so well at the moment in early 10th edition. Well, you always have something to shoot. Because of the way that the Genestealer Cult can come back, there's always going to be something else, a next wave, another group of random cultists ready to die for the cause that you can cut down heroically. So the bodies are piling up, but the banner's still waving, and there's still another wave of cultists to come in and get cut down as well. Because the Genestealer Cult play so differently, it's another puzzle to figure out. You're not just deciding, oh, okay, how do I take out the same gun line again? Okay, how do I react to this one fast army that's going to come all on the flank with loads of vehicles? A fast horde that isn't just rushing straight at you is a novelty. Genestealer Cult are very fun to play against. I have heard the complaints. Have you seen the 25 demo charge list? You'll get your full army back. Twice! Yes, but have you played against them? Or have you just heard that they were really good at tournaments? Have you played outside of a tournament or outside of a super hard competitive sadistic game? And did the Genestealer Cult opponent try the most OP tactics that could be thought of to exploit demolition charges and throw thousands of mortal wounds out with their jackal bikes? In casual games, which is probably going to be most of the games you play, they're really fun. You don't really get anecdotes spread around of casual games where it was nice and fun and balanced and close because the complaint meta is so prevalent. We really want to complain about, Eldar are awful. Genestealer Cult are awful. I can never win with Death Guard or Leagues of Votan. And you can, and people do. They just don't mention it a lot, otherwise it seems like they're bragging. Oh yeah, I've won quite a few games with my battle sisters. How dare you say that? Don't you know the rest of us are struggling? Yes, I know, that's why I do helpful videos about Battle Sisters. Yes, demolition charges are quite powerful, but we otherwise lack las cannons, and we're not mentioning Brood Brothers right now. Is being able to get units back a very powerful ability? It is okay, and we pay the cost for neophytes especially. I get 1 or 2 units back per game. Imperial Guard are far worse because they immediately outflank. No waiting around, no worry that they might be taken away as a token. Yes, it costs command points, but they can be in your deployment zone with a whole platoon. The Genestealer Cult have to be very far away, otherwise their blips are toast. I really haven't found the Cult Ambush to be super amazing army rule. If you are winning and have a lot of board control, then it's great for sending in another wave. But if the enemy has objectives held, and has fast or outflanking units, you are not going to be able to put your token in any kind of good position. It is a nice way to counter long range and indirect fire from turn 1, but though it cost command points. Fighting Imperial Guard, they were coming on from my board edge with 3 sentinels or 20 soldiers. And I thought I was the one playing the infiltrating insurgents. The strength of Genestealer Cult comes from their units, their abilities, and the regeneration that comes from the cult icons. The cult ambush is a nice little extra, but I don't think it's as powerful in practice as other faction rules. And if you have actually managed to find a Genestealer Cult opponent, pin them down and play a game against them, maybe your army doesn't do too well. But that may be because, much like in the real world, your army is used to fighting one-on-one encounters across great fields or plains or cities, and so the idea of fighting a dug-in insurgency is going to be a very different tactic, one that a lot of real-world armies have had to struggle and adapt to. Now you, as a science fiction general, get to do the same thing, but there's also alien monsters and you have laser guns. Now just because an army is doing well in the tournament scene doesn't mean that you can't have fun against it in a casual game. I am all about fun. We play for fun. Look how bouncy I am. Yes, this is for fun. I'm never going to do a video about how to bring enough faction buildings to make your middle-aged opponent cry about mortgage prices. Just playing for fun. So reach out to your local Genestealer Cult player, if there is one, and play a game against them. Or find the Eldar player who really loves Bael'Tan Swordwind Aspect Warriors who is curled up in the corner after being bullied for playing Eldar when they as a faction are doing well. Talk over the list they plan to take. Check for Wraithguard. And then play them and have a fun game. I would love to hear your anecdotes in the comments, recent or from past editions, about how you had a fun game against a broken faction. Here's a short one from me about when I was playing against the Leagues of Votann at their height in 9th edition. Or you can just watch a video about one of the more fun Genestealer Cult characters who is underperforming as part of the faction. Both is always an option. My darlings and viewers, have a great day of 40k.